At a family barbecue, my wife's brother sneered and said, "If you vanish tomorrow, no one would even notice." Everyone burst out laughing, except me. I just raised my drink and smirked. We'll see. That night, I packed my things and disappeared. 2 months later, they're who's forgotten now. I, 34M, was the joke at a family barbecue. 2 months later, they're begging me to come back. The smell of charcoal and cheap beer hung thick in the August air that afternoon. I stood near the grill, beer in hand, watching my wife laugh with her mother about something I wasn't privy to. Her brother stood nearby, already 3 drinks deep by the looks of it, holding court with the usual crowd of relatives who treated these gatherings like some sacred tradition. I'd learned to make myself small at these things. 15 years of marriage had taught me that much. Show up, smile, nod when appropriate, and let them have their moment. I was the outsider who'd married in, the guy who didn't quite fit their mold. Her family had money, not rich, but comfortable in that upper middle class way that breeds a particular kind of entitlement. I came from nothing, built my own business from the ground up, and somehow that made me lesser in their eyes. Her brother caught my eye from across the yard and grinned. That wasn't good. He had that look he got when he was winding up for something. He raised his voice loud enough for everyone to hear and asked if I was enjoying myself. I said I was fine, just taking it easy. He laughed and said that was my problem. I was always just taking it easy, just existing in the background. Then he paused for effect, and everyone quieted down to hear what was coming next. He said if I vanished tomorrow, no one would even notice. The yard erupted in laughter. Her mother covered her mouth, but her eyes crinkled with amusement. Her father chuckled and shook his head. Cousins, aunts, uncles, all laughing. My wife stood there with this frozen smile, not quite laughing, but not exactly defending me either. She looked at me with this apologetic shrug that said, "You know how he is." I didn't know how he was. I'd known for 15 years. I raised my drink, let a slow smile spread across my face, and told him we'd see about that. The laughter continued, but there was something in my tone that made him pause for just a second. Then the moment passed, and someone changed the subject. I stayed another hour, ate a burger, made small talk, acted normal. But something had crystallized inside me during that laughter, something that had been building for years and finally hardened into certainty. That night, after we got home, my wife was getting ready for bed when she mentioned her brother had been drinking too much again. She said I shouldn't take what he said seriously. I told her I wasn't upset. She seemed relieved and kissed my cheek before going to shower. I sat in our bedroom listening to the water run and made my decision. I'd been planning an exit strategy for months, actually. Not consciously at first, but looking back, all the pieces had been falling into place. My business was doing well, really well. I'd been the sole earner for the last 6 years while she pursued various hobbies and volunteering positions that never quite panned out. The house was in both our names, but I'd paid the mortgage. The cars, the accounts, the investments, I'd built all of it. 3 months earlier, I'd moved significant assets into a business account she didn't know about. Perfectly legal since it was my company's operating capital. I'd also been documenting everything. Her spending, her lack of contribution, the way her family treated me like a walking ATM. My lawyer had helped me understand exactly what divorce in our state would look like. I'd been methodical, but I hadn't pulled the trigger because some part of me kept hoping things would change. Her brother's comment ended that hope. I waited until she fell asleep. Then I started packing. Not everything, just what I needed. Clothes, documents, laptop, a few personal items. I loaded my car in the dark garage, making multiple quiet trips. At 3 in the morning, I sat down and wrote a letter. I kept it simple. I told her I was done. Done being disrespected, done being the punchline, done being invisible. I said I'd been more than patient, more than generous, and in return I'd gotten 15 years of being treated like I was lucky to be there. I told her my lawyer would be in touch, and that she should probably get one too. I left the letter on the kitchen counter, weighted down with my wedding ring. Then I left. I'd rented a furnished apartment across town 2 weeks earlier, just in case. I told the landlord I needed a quiet place to work on a big project. It was paid for 6 months in advance, cash. I drove there as the sun started coming up, let myself in, and slept for 12 hours straight. When I woke up, my phone was dead. I turned it off before I left the house. I plugged it in, but didn't turn it on. Not yet. I spent that first week in complete silence. No phone, no social media, no contact with anyone from my old life. I'd taken a leave of absence from my business, told my second-in-command I needed a month for personal matters, and that he was fully in charge. He was good, capable, and I trusted him. The business would be fine. I needed to not be fine for a while. I needed to let myself fall apart where no one could see. On day 8, I finally turned on my phone. 147 missed calls, 63 text messages, multiple voicemails, most from my wife, increasingly frantic, some from her mother, her father, even her brother, a few from mutual friends asking if I was okay. I listened to the voicemails on speaker while I made coffee. My wife's first messages were confused, asking where I was and if I was all right. Then angry, demanding I come home and talk like an adult. Then scared, crying, asking if I was safe. Her mother left a cold message saying this was childish and I needed to stop worrying her daughter. Her father's message was surprisingly measured. He asked me to call him when I was ready. Her brother left 3 messages. The first was hostile, calling me pathetic for running away. The second was nervous, asking if we could talk. The third was almost pleading, saying he was sorry and didn't mean it, and everyone was just joking around. I deleted them all without responding. My lawyer called day 10. My wife had contacted him, demanding to know where I was. He told her what he was legally required to, that I was safe, that I had retained him for divorce proceedings, and that she should get representation. She'd apparently broken down crying in his office. He asked if I wanted to proceed. I told him yes. The first month was hardest. I existed in this strange limbo, not quite moved on, not quite still there. I worked out obsessively, lost 15 pounds I didn't really need to lose. I read books I'd been meaning to get to for years. I started therapy because I figured I should probably talk to someone who wasn't myself. My therapist asked what I wanted from all this. I told her I wanted to feel like I mattered. She asked if disappearing made me matter. I said we'd find out. She raised an eyebrow at that, but didn't push. I started checking in with my business remotely. Everything was running smoothly, better than smoothly, actually. Turned out some of my presence had been holding back certain efficiencies. My second-in-command had implemented some changes I'd been hesitant about, and they were working beautifully. Revenue was up 18%. I told him he was getting a raise in equity. He asked when I was coming back. I said I'd let him know. 6 weeks in, my wife hired a private investigator. I know because the guy found me pretty quickly. I wasn't exactly hiding, and showed up at my apartment asking to talk. He was professional about it, said my wife just wanted to know I was alive and okay. I told him I was both and asked him to relay that message. He said she wanted to talk. I said I didn't. He left his card anyway. That same week, her father called my business line. My second-in-command forwarded it to me. Her father asked if we could meet for coffee. He said he wasn't there to judge or convince me of anything. He just wanted to understand. Something in his voice made me agree. We met at a diner halfway between our respective parts of town. He looked older than I remembered, grayer, more tired. He ordered coffee black and got straight to it. He told me he owed me an apology, not for his son's comment specifically, but for years of allowing me to be treated as less than. He said he'd watched it happen and told himself it was just family dynamics, just personalities clashing, nothing serious. He said he realized, watching his daughter fall apart these past weeks, that he'd been willfully blind. I asked him what changed his perspective. He said she'd been going through my stuff, looking for clues about where I'd gone, and found notebooks I'd kept. I maintained detailed records for my business, but apparently, I'd also been keeping personal journals. In them, I'd documented every slight, every dismissive comment, every time I'd been made to feel small. Years of it. She'd shown them to her father. He'd read them. He said it was like looking at their family through a stranger's eyes and realizing the stranger was right. I told him I appreciated him saying that, but it didn't change anything. He nodded and said he figured as much. Then he asked if I'd be willing to meet with his daughter, my wife, just once. I said I'd think about it. He left cash for both our coffees and shook my hand before leaving. His grip was firm, but there was something defeated in it. I thought about it for 3 days. My therapist said it was my choice, and whatever I decided would be valid. My lawyer said it couldn't hurt as long as I didn't sign anything or make promises. I agreed to meet her. We met at a park, neutral territory. She showed up looking like she'd aged 5 years and 2 months. Weight loss, dark circles, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail instead of her usual careful styling. She sat down on the bench next to me, and we both stared straight ahead for a while. She asked if I was okay. I said I was. She asked where I'd been. I told her that didn't matter anymore. Then she started crying and asked what she did wrong. That almost broke me. Almost. But then I remembered that these tears, this pain, this was what it took for her to see me. Not 15 years of showing up, not building a life for us, not being faithful and present and devoted. It took me leaving for her to notice I existed. I told her that was the problem. She didn't do something wrong in one moment. She'd done nothing at all for 15 years. She'd let her family treat me like garbage. She'd benefited from my work while contributing nothing. She'd never once stood up for me, never once made me feel like I was her priority, never once treated me like an equal partner. She said she was sorry, that she didn't realize, that she could change. I asked her when she'd planned to realize. After 20 years? 30? Or was I supposed to just endure it forever because that's what I did? I endured. She couldn't answer that. I told her my lawyer would send the papers. She grabbed my hand and begged me not to do this, said we could fix it, said she loved me. I pulled my hand away and told her she loved what I provided. She loved the lifestyle, the security, the comfort. She didn't love me. She barely knew me. I stood up to leave and she asked what she was supposed to do now. I told her the same thing her brother said to me, figure it out. Then I walked away. Update 1. 2 months to the day after I left, I got a text from her brother. He'd apparently gotten my new number from someone. I suspected her father. The text was long, rambling, apologetic. He said he'd been going to AA, that he realized he had a drinking problem, and that night at the barbecue he'd been drunk and cruel. He said his sister was a mess. Their parents were fighting about how they'd handled things with me, and the whole family was imploding. He said it was all his fault and asked if I could ever forgive him. I read it 3 times. Then I blocked the number. My lawyer finalized the divorce proceedings. My wife tried to fight for half of everything, but the documentation I'd kept proved she'd contributed essentially nothing financially for years. Her lawyer knew they didn't have a strong case. We settled on her keeping the house, which I'd paid off, and 1 car. I kept the business, my retirement accounts, and most of the liquid assets. It was more than fair given the circumstances. She signed the papers without contesting the final terms. Her father told me later she'd just given up fighting. I sold my stake in the house back to her for $1. Let her have that symbol of our failed marriage. I didn't need it. My second-in-command officially became my business partner. We expanded into 2 new markets. Revenue doubled in 4 months. Turned out I worked better angry. I started dating someone I met at a business conference. She was brilliant, funny, ambitious in her own right. She asked about my divorce on our 3rd date. I gave her the abbreviated version. She said her ex-husband used to tell her she was too focused on her career. Then she grinned and said his loss, her gain. I liked her immediately. 3 months after the divorce finalized, I got a wedding invitation. My ex-wife was getting married to someone she'd apparently started dating a month after I left. Quick turnaround. Her family was thrilled according to mutual friends who still talked to me. The guy had old money, came from the right background, fit their image perfectly. Good for her, I suppose. She'd found what she actually wanted. I didn't go to the wedding, obviously, but I heard about it. Heard it was lavish, expensive, everything she'd always wanted. Heard her brother gave a toast about how happy he was she'd found someone who truly appreciated her. The irony wasn't lost on me. Update 2. 6 months after I left, her father called again. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of me. He told me his daughter's new marriage was already struggling. Turned out old money came with old expectations. Her new husband expected her to be a particular type of wife, decorative and deferential. She was miserable. She'd told her father she'd made a mistake, that she'd married him to prove something to herself and maybe to me. He said she'd asked about me, asked if I was happy. I told him to tell her I was extremely happy, because I was. He asked if I'd gotten everything I wanted from disappearing. I thought about that. Thought about my thriving business, my new relationship, the peace I felt waking up each morning without dread. Thought about how I'd spent 15 years being invisible and now I was finally, fully visible, to myself if no one else. I told him I got something better than what I wanted. I got free. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said he was glad, and he meant it. He apologized again for not seeing what was happening when it mattered. I told him I accepted his apology, but we wouldn't be having these calls anymore. He understood. That was the last time I spoke to anyone from that family. Her brother's prediction was wrong. People noticed when I disappeared. They noticed my absence like you notice when chronic pain finally stops. Relief mixed with the dawning realization of how much it had been hurting all along. My ex-wife noticed. Her family noticed. My business partners noticed and thrived. I noticed most of all. I didn't vanish to prove a point. I vanished because staying meant disappearing anyway, slowly, quietly, until there was nothing left of me but a hollow shape going through motions. I chose a different kind of disappearance. The kind where you leave everything that doesn't serve you and build something new from nothing. The kind where you matter. Some nights I still think about that barbecue. The laughter, the casual cruelty, the way 15 years of quiet devotion meant nothing against one afternoon's entertainment. I think about the man I was, standing there with a beer in his hand, smiling through disrespect because he thought that's what love required. I don't miss him. I don't miss them either. People ask sometimes what happened to my marriage. I tell them the truth. I left. They usually want details, want to understand what broke us. I keep it simple. She needed someone to be small so she could feel big. I needed to be seen. Those things couldn't coexist. Now I run a successful business with a partner who respects me. I date someone who challenges me and celebrates me in equal measure. I have a life that's mine, built on my terms, answerable to my standards, measured by my satisfaction. Her brother was right about one thing. I did disappear. But I'm the only one who knows where I went. And I'm never coming back.